Hello, 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 everyone.
We
Hey,
back.
Lisa. How are
Hey,
you doing?
Doctor. Good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. It seems like forever. But we want to say, first of all, thank you for meeting us here. I know we were gone for about 2 weeks, spending time with family. So we hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. But happy Saturday. And thank you for joining us again for another episode of The Truth and Nothing But the Truth. We want you, before we get started, do us a favor, share the video with somebody you believe needs to hear this. Make sure that you are clicking the notification button so you can stay connected to us for our upcoming lives. And some of you may catch us on the replay. So thank you for tuning in, and make sure that you leave comments. So before we get started, we are streaming through StreamYard, and we need you to give StreamYard permission to post your comments in Facebook so that we can see what you are saying. All right, let's get started. So I am Dr. Katina Fuller Scott. I am a reconnection strategist and the proud founder of Be What Matters. We are a social purpose movement that specializes in professional development, coaching, speaking, and strategy consulting. And on a larger scale, we're leading a social purpose community that really builds connection around being change makers in the world. And so I'm excited to be here for another episode with one of my friends I met during COVID. And we hit it off so well that we decided, for those who are new to us, we decided to come together and have conversation. We were strangers, hit it off, and said, you know what, let's invite other people into our conversation. So since then, it has evolved into this video series that people are connecting to. Like, you all have been rocking it out with us. But without further ado, I don't want to go ahead of myself. I want to introduce my friend. Come on, Lisa, what's going on? Talk to the people.
What up? So I'm Lisa Lewis Daniels. Okay, the whole name got to come out because I earned all of that. It tells my journey. In addition to being somebody's mama and wife, I am an executive leadership coach and founder of Lionheart Society. Within our organization, we do our best to integrate career, marriage, and parenthood, have those honest conversations, create venues so people can, let their hair down and figure it out, because we're all trying to figure it out, right? And so that is why it's such an honor and a blessing to connect with the doctor, as I call her, because I feel like even though she has one aspect of her entrepreneurship journey, I'm like right on the other end, trying to build stronger, better individuals so we can at the end, right, have stronger, better leaders. So while we're at the opposite ends, we have a great marriage, no pun intended. Great marriage and friendship we're building through these talks, and everyone that has joined us and left comments, we're so thankful for you becoming part of our tribe and conversation. So without further ado, I know some of y'all looking at that flyer, we're like, what's up with that? I thought Mr. Tobias was going to be gone after the last series. Well, let me tell you, we had to bring that whole husband back, because every conversation we have, he just brings the fire. He is a social worker. He has a master's in social work. He's a marriage counselor. He's a poet. He's an upcoming author. I mean, he just has it all. So let's bring him on, ladies and gentlemen, so he can come into the conversation with us today, which is, it takes a village to grow a great marriage.
What's up, Tobias?
Hello, ladies. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming back.
Right. Thank you for having me.
So for some of people who have not seen you in action, just tell them a little bit about yourself, Tobias.
I'm Ittrick Tobias. Have my MSW from Western Michigan University, BSW from Mississippi Valley State University, HBCU in the house, author and poet of Life Unscripted Musings Through Poems, which will be out in the spring.
Come on
of
here.
2021.
All right,
I
now
know that COVID messed everybody up.
Everybody, okay?
Everybody, not everybody, everybody.
Everybody. All right. So we're excited to have you, and I'm not going to do all the talking, of course. But today's topic, we've been talking about it takes leadership, not leadership. See what's on my mind? Be true to thine own self. To thine own self, be true. So talking about personal identities. Then we got into two deep conversations about around you asked for it, now grow. Talking about how do we build this marriage, this thing called marriage, and navigate the seasons and stages of marriage. And then we jump into this conversation. And Lisa, what is our topic for tonight?
So as I was saying earlier, didn't want to give too much away before we brought the whole husband on. We are saying it takes a village now to grow a great marriage. So that is going to be our topic. That was kind of heavy.
It is, and you know what I love about this topic is that we get to give our own perspective. So again, for those who are joining us, the truth and nothing but the truth is really about us. How do we grow, share, and grow as couples, right? Because there are so many pressures and so many external factors that play on the commitment of marriage. And so to have this kind of conversation about how do we build a community that is not just about my home girl, my home boy, but really about team us, right? So let's jump into this conversation. For those of you who are here, let us know where you're from. Chat out, call out in the chat. Let us know, because we like to talk and keep the engagement popping. If you have questions, you have comments, please put them in the chat. Make sure that you give StreamYard permission, and let's get into the conversation. So Lisa, why don't we talk about like building a house on a solid foundation?
So with every relationship, right, there is a season of growth and getting to know each other. And so when we were having our conversation, Tobias brought up, like, all of these people come to the wedding, but are they really invested? Because you come, like we talked about in the first episode, about your own individual identity, and then you come together as a couple. So then that is creating an additional layer. And now you're expressing that love at a wedding that we marry now. So you have all these witnesses that are coming on a particular day of your choice to celebrate that love. But what we were discussing is we don't really think about those people who are coming should also have a part to play, invest in the marriage, because it takes a lot to commit to till death do us part, sir, right, Mr. Tobias?
Absolutely, it does.
And so you're talking about. Go ahead, Tobias. No, go ahead.
I was going on. I know a lot of people have attacked me about, you don't like weddings. I like the institution of marriage, just not the weddings itself. The whole ceremony just seemed to be much of a show.
Oh, mine was a show. My wedding was live, hunting. Okay.
So, and we were talking about building this. First of all, what's up, John Haynes? What's up, Francis? Just calling out some people. What's up, Thomas Melton? Glad you're here with us. Let us know where you're from.
John's in my neck of the woods. Talking about DC Metro. Hey, woo woo, represent for the East Coast.
We're glad that you are spending time with us this Saturday. Okay, so when we're talking about this building a house on a solid foundation, we were talking about understanding when it's a season. You know, I'm getting older, so I got to read some notes sometimes. So, yeah. Okay.
Amen.
Okay, no judgment. Understand that when it's a season of building a strong structure, there is a moment where a decision is to be made. And when you're talking about this foundation, sometimes in building our house called marriage, right? We have come to different stages in our marriage where we are either at the stage of like handling deferred maintenance. You think about your house, right? Deferred maintenance, or are we in a season of like rehabbing and tearing down to rebuild? Mm-hmm. Or are we in a season of SOS? We need to get some help, from a larger community. And your village may include a counselor as well. So because we have a counselor, a resident counselor, talk about this idea of building this strong foundation and understanding when it's a deferred maintenance versus, hey, I need some help from a larger community. Tobias.
Well, the foundation is key. As to with any house or any structure, the foundation is the key. The windows could collapse, the doors could be gone, but as long as you have a strong foundation, then you have something that you can work with. And the main thing with any foundation is that communication. Communication is very essential to building a strong marriage and building a village. I mean, creating that village. And that involves speaking to people that you think have a great marriage.
Yeah. So when we and John said something about, I want to put this up because he's jumping us into this whole conversation around great minds think alike.
Won't he do it? Won't he do it?
Won't he do it? Yeah, he will. Yeah, he will.
All right, church girls.
This whole conversation around understanding that when people came to your wedding, right, you have observers and you have investors, or what we consider stakeholders. So love it that you went right into the conversation. Wow, great minds, right? So understand that my marriage is not just between the couple, but you have these witnesses, right? But the power comes in differentiating when they are observers and when they are investors. That part. So an observer, talk to me about what do you think an observer is, Alisa?
So it's just like, you like it, I love it. Good luck, girl, with that. Okay. See you at the next Christmas party. Holla at your girl. Peace.
Look, I actually had a cousin of mine, bless her soul, in the receiving line after my wedding come up and say, hey, cuz, you like it, I love it. I'm like, that's what you say in a receiving line after I said I do? But understanding that, okay, I understand you're an observer, you're not an investor. So who's an investor then, Tobias?
Investors probably won't be readily identifiable the moment you say I do. Because you have to keep in mind that marriage is a journey. There's a long road to forever. And so during the course of time, you will find out who's actually invested in your marriage and who's an observer of your marriage. But it takes time. It will take time, but they will reveal themselves.
They will reveal themselves. All right now. All right.
And also, you think people are an investor, you may have to push them to an observer. Because everybody can't be in your marriage, honey, in your business. Okay?
This is true. This is true.
It's like, I maybe shouldn't tell her my business anymore because she can't keep a man.
All right, so that part, right? So, look, people, we are live, and unfortunately, technical difficulties happen. So thank you for rocking. Keep going. You said you have to put people into that category of being an observer. Go back to that, Lisa.
I was just saying you have to keep, sometimes you think people are observers, or I'm sorry, investors, when really they're an observer. And so, you can't tell everyone your business because they'll be like, you know what? She can't keep a man. So maybe I don't need to I don't need to tell her my business anymore. Like even your circle of friends change the longer you've been married.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. John says a good marriage investor knows when to be an observer and when to jump in and help. You know what? Sometimes, oh, wait. Who's this? Sonia Matthews. What's up, Sonia Matthews?
You know your girl. We met in Target. That was one of my friends I met in Target. I love her. I just started talking to her randomly. She's such a sweetheart.
Well, thank you for joining us, Sonia. I've learned, and I agree with you, John, and you all, I believe that people who are really invested understand how to do it in a way where it doesn't violate your union. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we include people and we don't have good boundaries and how we bring people in, even when they're investors, and those lines get blurred. I know I'm preaching.
We ain't amen as hard as you preaching. All amen. Right. Amen. Amen.
So we have these opportunities where if I got a friend, so we have an engagement question for you. Now, this is where it gets a little dicey. We want to hear what you have to say. For those who are joining, we're talking about it takes a village to grow a great marriage. But here's our first engagement question. So put your responses in the chat. Outside of abuse, if your friend confided in you that they are contemplating a divorce, would you say, I just want you to be happy? Or encourage them to fight? Now, it's no judgment. No judgment here.
What you say there, counselor?
No judgment. What's going on?
What you gonna tell the people?
Well, I wanted to go back and talk about the stakeholder before I answer that, because the stakeholder is an investor in the marriage. And someone told me, which was great advice, that it's never about doing your part. It's about doing what's needed. Which means I may absorb a lot more than I intended. But the goal is for us to be one. So it may look like I'm doing more, but the goal again is for us to be one. And so we are now, I may look again, because the Bible says, how can two, that's not the scripture I want to use.
That's so many of them.
To whom much is given, much is required. So, but we often equate that with finances, but that also equates to everything in life about carrying more.
So some of the people, okay, Tobias.
You see, Jeremy, I was go get my Bible on Jeremy.
Jeremy is my brother. Jeremy is my brother. Jeremy brought out the scripture on us. So, okay, now most of us have been with our homegirls and been with our homeboys, and we are in those spaces, and we truly are invested in our minds and hearts. We want them to succeed. But, or should I say, and when our friend tells us, I am just not happy, I really believe like I'm out of love. Are we really going to say, fight for it? Or are we going to say, like, girl, man, I just want you to be happy, whatever you choose. So let's go to the comments. Let's see what they're saying. So Sonia says fight. Both parties in the ring must want to fight, though. That's a whole. Somebody said it depends on the situation. Francis, talk to us about that situation. What are your thoughts on that?
That's what I'm like. What situation we talking about? That's what I want to know.
Now we're talking about outside of abuse, and even I can say even probably cheating. Like there's some non-negotiables, right? But I'm just putting it out there. What are your thoughts? So here's Jeremy. Jeremy's the one who brought out the Bible, said read chapters 5 and chapters 19.
I'm not gonna read the whole verse because it's a long one. But the first part of it says, whosoever therefore, see, that's what the Bible, they be confusing you. What does that mean? Whosoever therefore. I be getting tired. So anyway.
Everybody.
Shall break one of these least commandments and teach men, so they shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever, see, that's what I'm talking about. Whosoever shall do and teach them shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. That sounds like to me accountability. So anyone that know me, know you can't come with no mess.
So this is what Jeremy said. He said, fight for the marriage till death do us part.
Yeah.
So
I'm with Jeremy. You gonna be unhappiness is an emotion. Mm-hmm. Just like it came, it can go.
Well, okay, John. Okay.
And the other thing about that, and the thing about unhappiness, people have this this great myth that once I get married, then I'm not going to be unhappy. It's a huge myth. If you were single and you're unhappy, there's a large probability that you're going to be unhappy and married at some point.
He just dropped the mic. Boop.
Because
yes,
what I often say is that the reality is, if you're unhappy when you're single, you're probably going to be unhappy when you're married. But because I can't identify it, means I have seen it before.
Okay.
And Francis said, "Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish."
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, if you could pull up Francis, she said, "Well, what if the marriage is not growing?"
Well, come on in the room.
Well, I think it wasn't in the. I think maybe it was last section, or maybe it didn't make it into the notes, but we said when the marriage is not growing, you first got to start with me. Because it takes two to grow.
Yeah.
And so people say they grow apart, and I almost started a ride up in the preparation when I said, well, if you grow apart, you can go back together. So I mean, it happens. Being stunted in your marriage and life, it does happen. But for you to move forward, there's a first an action that has to be taken, and a decision and accountability for what part that you played in the marriage being stunted and lack of progression.
This is the piece most of us, when we get to this point of talking about, we do not want to take accountability for the things we do and say. I want to go back up to, who was that? They said that it didn't happen overnight.
Correct.
Wow, who said that?
Sonia, one party ain't happy. I love how you say ain't happy. That did not happen overnight. So when you're talking about these investors versus observers, who do you have in your community that you are gleaning from? Because we can be so caught up in the doing of what we do as a couple that we fail to connect to other resources, and we'll just be really suffering in silence when you don't have to.
Right.
When you don't have to. So talk about that. We didn't plan this part, but talk about people who are suffering in silence, Tobias.
Every marriage is going to plateau. It's just the reality of it. And
good word, plateau.
And when you said growth, the first thing that came to my mind is, what does growth look like? Which means that's going to involve a conversation. What is it that we both need to do? And once the conversation takes place, because again, I may need to do more. I may need you to do more. But the first thing is a conversation needs to take place to see what does growth look like. And once we both identify what the growth looks like, then those steps needs to be taken to work toward that.
You see, Lisa looking at it. Go ahead, Lisa.
He said, so John said, break that part apart about marriage not growing. Which one stopped growing? I think both people stop growing. You get tired. You get tired. You get
And
kids.
you get comfortable.
You get comfortable. The commute. I mean, and so one thing though that I will say, John, that I ain't been married as long as you have. I just made 14 years. But what I will say that came to life for me recently when I went back to school is when you grow apart, you have to be cognizant of that. So I had to slow down. So my husband could catch up. Cause I be done left people, I be done gone about my business, but I had to realize, or when in the conversations with Dr. Katina, I had to realize that was my individual identity taking over. Yeah. And so that's when people start to grow apart. It's like you're growing because you have an interest that's taking you and separating you from the marriage or the parenthood or whatever. But in this season, I acknowledge that growing apart, my part in that is if I keep moving forward and I'm not looking back to make sure babe is with me, then that separation more easily happens.
And so what you're saying, Lisa, is that when you're growing, the growth has to include the other person. I can't, again, if we are to become one, I can't continue to grow and not have you along for the ride, along for the journey, because again, the consensus is going to be, why am I here?
Yeah, because if you are one, I'm sorry, if you're one, how are you really growing if your partner isn't growing? I mean, like, really think about it. If it's not moving us forward, are we really growing?
Not together. Which is why I go back to my first statement. If you grow apart, you can grow together. It's accountability to the unit, to the family.
Yeah.
So
and that communication piece that you were talking about, Tobias, like, if I'm not making sure that you okay, then we not really staying together as a unit. It's like, why am I here? You don't need me. You don't even ask when growing, you're not even asking me for some water. So I can help participate in the growth.
So Thomas Melton asked a question: how do you start off happy and end up not happy? Those in the comments, those in the chat.
Yeah, help us answer that.
Yeah, how do you start off happy and end up not happy?
Because I got a few reasons why.
Because life happens.
And
so that ain't why.
Lisa, don't come for him like that.
You're so cute. Ooh, you're so cute. I want to be around you every day.
And so life happens, and so we don't prepare for that aspect of life. We always think that, okay, it's probably going to be roses and sunshine, but we don't prepare ourselves for those bad times. And so in preparing ourselves for those bad times, it goes back to what we started the conversation with: people that are stakeholders in the marriage, because you will get to that point. And so who you're surrounded by is very key during that time, because who has your ear also influences you.
Yeah. Francis says something, and it's going to take us back just a bit to probably challenging to what I said about, are you really growing if both of you are not growing? And I understand what you're saying, Francis, that sometimes there comes in life, times in our lives where we've been enlightened, we've been around different experiences, and really experiences are what make you grow, right? To me, the new knowledge that you gain from these experiences. And there are times though, where individuals are intimidated by your growth, even in marriage. Ooh.
That's
and it gets back to that struggle that we were talking about, that rebellion that struggle that happens. And it really happens to me, Francis, when I am not communicating
that part
where I am and how I'm feeling about growth, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, having those real good conversations about, hey, this is where I feel that I need to go or what I feel I need to do. I'm constantly having those conversations with my husband. We're on two different professional paths, and just being conscious of, okay, how is that our individual paths, how is it affecting us as a couple? How do we support each other in that? And Tobias, you said something, I think it was in last session, about them being a partner in that, like inviting them in to be a part of that journey. Did you repeat that today?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very key because, again, I need to know what is needed of me. And so the simple thing is really, really simple, is to go to your spouse, your mate. No matter what I'm doing, I can't do this without you. I still need you. And it's very, very simple. And sometimes we get lost in the journey of not stating that I can still do all of these things without you. But it's the little things that they're doing to keep you going, to able to fulfill your dream.
Yes, absolutely. And that is so true. Bringing two souls with two purposes together, the merger requires work and unified destination. Love it, love it, love it. Thomas Melson's like, huh? We're going to let that marinate, Melton. Thank you, Yolanda. The vows have to be taught. The first vow, yes. If your spouse is intimidated by the other, then they may suffer from low self-esteem. Could be, Jeremy, but that communication is so key. And instead, and it gets back to our conversation about community. If you haven't had that conversation, an open conversation with your spouse about where you are, it is important. We get into these spaces where we have different people that we confide in. When you don't have people that are really team us, it creates this ground for toxicity. So getting back to what we were talking about, we need mentors, and that can provide a safe harbor, or safe for each other, right? People that we can go confide in, and who we can experience life with in these different seasons to help us through some things. What are your thoughts on that, about having mentors?
It's very essential. And the key to that is identifying a couple that you know already that's been married or that is married, and just walking along with them on the journey, because another husband always needs another husband to talk to, a good husband. And the same thing with the wife. Having someone they can bounce ideas off or vent and say, okay, is this something that I need to address, or maybe this is something that I'm overreacting to.
So I'm putting in the chat that, okay, what are your thoughts, those who are engaging with us, what are your thoughts on mentorship? And what does that look like for you?
Actually, it's so obvious, but I kind of had an epiphany when you said that, Tobias. It's like you need mentors, and we were talking about it, but people have mentors all the time at work when they're trying to get a whole new check. They call it networking. That part.
Okay.
People have a problem with networking from a professional aspect. So you need that community just in marriage, just like you need as you climb the corporate ladder.
And the other part of that is it allows you a place to be transparent. And so, and that's something that as a married couple, we're always thinking we're isolated. That the embarrassment of, okay, this is going on and I have no one to talk to. But you do have some people that are in your circle that you perhaps can talk to.
Yeah.
And they've gone through the same situation.
So this is interesting. Thomas said, I don't talk to anybody about my marriage specifically except for her. I want to know why. Why don't you put that in the chat, Thomas? Because, you know, and he's been married for over 40 years. So first of all, kudos. Thank God for marriage. And he's been with his wife.
He should be talking to us.
Right. But hold on. He said, now you know me and my wife have been together for over 40 years since I was 18 and she was 17. I'm very opinionated, and he is very opinionated. But we're not scared. We're not scared. Bring it on, Thomas. Bring it on. Okay, so but talk about that in the chat. That you don't talk to anyone about your marriage specifically except for her. I want to hear more about that because I have my own opinion.
I mean, I will say maybe not the most intimate details. I would agree with that, unless again there's some danger involved, then you may need to. So I can kind of get that, but to not have anyone that you trust and can talk to and can vent and just give you a different perspective. I don't know. I think just like any aspect in life, to have one or two people kind of go along the journey with you just makes it that more enjoyable. But, you know.
So this is interesting. Clara said, I don't think mentors always have to be married. I think they have to be wise, connected to God, fair, and unbiased, and have your best interests at heart. Why? What are your thoughts on that? Thank you.
That is true. That is true. They don't have to be married, but preferably married. That was it. Yeah. They don't have to be married.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need some married couple that a married person that you can talk to, a married husband that you can talk to. That doesn't have to be your only source. There are other people, hopefully, in your circle that can speak into your life and speak into her life.
Yeah. Now, Yolanda, you coming in here preaching. I didn't know I was going to get a whole word. In the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Like, and not that kind of safety where we go to our family members.
Yeah.
Okay. The kind where we're telling them about our business and feeling comfortable telling them about our business, and it shifts their perspective, our spouse.
Yeah.
Right? Because normally when we're going venting, we're going telling most of the time one side of the situation, the favorable side, my side, right? No judgment.
Always the victim, huh?
Always the victim, because he knows he did wrong.
And dramatic about it too.
And my family and loves are the kind that if we know something's going on, shout out to the Scotts. They have a code 10 where we act now and we'll ask questions later. Don't have people out here wilding out when you know you told them something that was biased and okay, I'm sorry. I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry. I was trying to preach a little something and it didn't work.
It's almost Sunday. We can have testimony service. It's almost Sunday.
Don't have your people out here wilding out when you know that you are not living up to all of what you're supposed to do, and you sharing too much information, and you're changing the perspective of your spouse to your family.
And then you're going back to Pookie tomorrow. No, that night.
Right. We code 10 and knocking down doors and slamming and going up in people's houses, and you talking about some I love him. What?
No. And that ain't just the Scotts. That's the Lewises too, honey. My last name is Daniels, but the Lewises get crook. We don't ask no questions. Where they at? Where they at? That's all we need to know. Just point us. Be like, they over there.
You need somebody who can see the real perspective beyond the person. So true, Yolanda. You have to have somebody as much as possible to be objective. So I want to ask you, go ahead.
The danger in talking to a family member about the marriage is that once things are resolved between you two, the family member may still have resentment.
We still mad.
So it makes for a very uncomfortable Thanksgiving or Christmas when you show up and now here you go. So I would definitely not recommend you speak with family members about
So
your
they don't let
marriage.
you cut the turkey no more, Tobias.
Cut the turkey. I am the turkey.
You the main course.
That's right.
I can't. That's a whole other conversation. So when we were discussing that it takes a village or community, right, to grow a great marriage, we were saying that community should challenge us to be better. And oftentimes it will cause discomfort. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's about accountability. Because, I mean, if you're truly invested in first of all, in yourself being married till death do us part,
Mm-hmm.
everything you say, do is not going to be the right choice. So to have a community that will hold you accountable, but also love you through your mess until you're able to get it right, you're only going to be better for it. Because, my motto is, if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead anybody else. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not a family, not your way out of a paper bag, nobody.
Yeah.
So you need those people who are going to be like, that's one way to handle it, but here's maybe an alternative.
Yeah.
And it's also, like we were talking about earlier, it's a safe harbor where it's no judgment in the sense that they're not going to purposely make you feel bad. I mean, accountability can hurt. Like when I went to Weight Watchers this morning and she told me I gained a pound, my feelings was hurt. Okay.
Did you say a pound?
I'm coming back strong next week. Anyway.
But when we were talking, and this is going to be interesting, I'm going to bring up an engagement question. And I really want your honest opinion on that, even in the chat. We have so many images around us and receive so many messages about what great marriages look like, should feel like. And so I want to know, what are your thoughts on hashtag relationship goals?
Couples that's posting all the pictures, and always on the trips. Sounds good, looks good, however, very unrealistic. And so it sets people up for failure because they're always under the assumption that if we're not doing this, then we're probably not in a good space. If I'm not always posting pictures, we're not holding hands, then we're probably not in a good space. And it's farthest thing from the truth, because love can never be viewed in a snapshot. Mm-hmm. Love is viewed in totality of all things, not just that one little picture. It's like, oh my gosh, there they are. Like, okay, whatever. And so, but the answer, you mentioned something before we go too far into that, is about the challenge. You need people in your circle that's going to challenge you. And if those people are not challenging you, then you're probably in the wrong circle. Everybody in your circle can't always co-sign on your foolishness. You need someone to say, hey, you're doing too much. You need to sit down. Right. Or be able to call you out, because they can watch you self-destruct and we'll be cheering you on, even though it's the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's that balance you need in your community, the balance and the accountability.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I feel, well, first of all, my husband had me, I love David, but he has me out here like I have a ghost husband. Because I'm that type, I'm that type that like to share the pictures. And and I think the reason why I do it is because, or at least one of the reasons, is I really do enjoy my marriage. It's not perfect, but I do enjoy it. I enjoy family, right? But the other reason I do it is that there are not enough images, positive images about marriage, especially among the Black community. And so to kind of have that out there, to me, kind of shares what we have. But I also understand it's a highlight reel. I'm not giving you all the behind the scenes of we were fighting this morning and arguing. Why? No, I'm not going to do that. So talk to me about that understands that it's the highlight reel.
I mean, that's being a grown person. I mean, anyone that's lived a little bit knows that life is not happy, joyous all the time. I mean, in fact, to get to death do you part, most of marriage, right, is the everyday. Coming home, washing the dishes, washing the clothes, cleaning the bathroom. I mean, every so often. And that's if you're blessed enough to have the resources to do it. Because last time I checked, traveling is expensive. Or going out to dinner or I mean, that stuff is like above and beyond, in my opinion, icing on the cake. But the real marriage every day is doing the day in and day out kind of thing. It's not what I post on Facebook, it's the commitment really of it all. So relationship goals, I mean, I totally agree with you. It's about, when I post too, it's about putting out positive images. And it's so important to me. I create a company. Want to hear it? Here you go. Because I felt the same way. It's just like, you can have a great marriage, but if you want a great marriage, there's things, in my opinion, you need to do in order to set yourself up for a success. And even once you get in it, it's hard to maintain without being intentional.
So I love what you said about community should provide this balance, right? Understanding that, yes, what we see on social media, whether you're posting or not posting, although I would like to have more pictures of my husband. So if you listening, honey, give people a picture every now and then. But he just gets so upset when we are engaging. But anyway, that's another conversation. But I thought about something that a lot of us, we get into that danger of comparison. And your community should not invoke competition or comparison. Jonathan McReynolds has a song that says comparison kills, right? It kills your desire. It kills what you're building, because it reinforces these unrealistic expectations in what union should be compared to what you see in your community and versus the actual reality of what you have. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Makes a lot of sense, though.
And I was also going to say that social media portrays that. So you have to also set boundaries for yourself. Because I was having a conversation earlier this week with an individual, and I said, go out and speak to people who you deem as successful. And they will have, if they're truthful with you, they're going to have some stories about setbacks that they had in life. And did that, and they were able to overcome it and still be successful in spite of all of that. So you're not the only one that's trying to be successful and having a hard time transitioning between where you are and where you want to go. Like every successful person or marriage has that. Social media can be a setup.
And to piggyback off that, everybody in your circle or in your village should not be a reflection of where I came from.
Okay.
You need people.
I don't have them. Okay.
So again, everyone in your circle should not be a reflection of where I came from or I know you win. Because if that's the only, if those are the only people in your circle, who's going to show you the guide of where you're trying to go?
Yeah.
I love Jeremy's statement, Katina. He said, people forget to romance each other after marriage. They get comfortable and remember when they courted one another.
Yeah.
I'm always calling Mr. Daniels my boyfriend. And really, he's not my boyfriend. He's my husband. But it's a reminder to me that the next available moment I get a chance to be romantic or act like his girlfriend. Like, that's a constant reminder for me. Like, oh, you've been with old dude for 20 years, but you know, you want some romance sometime, you know, to remember that element of your marriage. So I agree with that.
So
wholeheartedly.
Being intentional. That's what you're saying. Being intentional.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is so important. I would love to have heard or seen when Thomas Melton was talking about not necessarily talking to anyone outside of his marriage. And I don't know if that was also, I wanted you to put it in the chat just so I'm clear on that. I have found it extremely beneficial. Of course, you need to set boundaries, but there is such power in understanding when you need to have a community of friends and mentors and people that you can relate to talk about situations and talk through situations that keep you from going down that path of feeling isolated. Because the reality is, I can't always talk to my mate about each and everything that I'm feeling, because most of the times they're too close to the situation. And if I don't have a mediator, they may take great offense to it, and it takes a total left turn.
He actually did answer. He said around 3:40, I don't bring people in because I would have them on a roller coaster of emotions. What I needed was maturity. Well, again, we talked about you got to talk to the right people, and maybe the right person for you is an objective person that you pay, like a counselor. Because everybody needs somebody.
And it was great for him to admit that I needed some maturity.
Yes. Yes.
That's a huge, huge thing that goes.
Me too, Thomas. Me too.
And so marriage is not for immature people. It's not. It's not going to work.
What?
If you're going to be immature and self-absorbed, don't do this. It's not going to work.
Or children, but that's not what this show is about.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Geraldine, for your comment. She's asking, but should the romance be the same as when you were a girlfriend? Where we failed is in learning to grow and to grow together. I cannot have the same expectations from when we were dating. So
Geraldine, I ain't the same girlfriend, girl. Right. That is not what I meant.
Clarify, Lisa, clarify.
I'll just leave it like that.
Yeah, let's keep it right there, please. Let's keep it right there.
Let's just leave it right there. Romance has seasons too. I'll just say
that. there definitely should be an. We're gonna bring that all the way back because I know where this is going.
That's what I said. I'm gonna leave it alone.
I can't.
You ain't getting me in a trick bag.
Although it is different, there definitely should be elements of romance throughout your marriage. So I believe that is what we're saying. That's our story. That's our truth.
That's what we sticking to it.
What's up, Ebony Lewis? What's up?
And the main thing about that, romance thing is communication. How have I changed? Which is a real conversation. I'm just giving you the example of flowers. She may like flowers early on, but as we both get older, I don't want any flowers. And so how do I cater to where you are now? Of course, that may have been a thing.
Girl. I want my mortgage paid. Okay.
So again, how conversation has to be had. I may not like chocolates anymore and stuffed animals and those kind of things. Where are you now with romance? Which means a real conversation has to be had.
Absolutely. I love it, Jeremy. Immaturity and selfishness will kill and destroy a marriage. I think that is a great way to end. Although when you talked about catering, why did my mind automatically go to Destiny's Child? Let me cater to you. Okay. Something wrong with it.
Because that's what you do when you first get married.
Yeah.
That's another conversation. Catering. Okay. But we want to thank you all so much for rocking it out with us. Definitely for those who are catching us on the replay. get in on the conversation. We go back and we do comment on any questions you may have. Share this video. Make sure that you're connected with us on our social media platforms to stay connected. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. If this is growing, and it's because you are coming and engaging in the process. We want to leave you with a couple of points. Building a house, we must build a house on a solid foundation. Before we can even talk about the whole idea of building greater community, is understanding how are we standing firm in team us, right? And then secondly, it takes effort, time, and intention to really cultivate a community that works for your marriage. I think that itself is powerful, that works for your marriage, whatever that looks like, that helps you and your spouse grow together. All right. So thank you for joining us for this discussion. Next week topic, December 19th, is on This Is Us. We're going to be talking about our intimate is the wrong word. Just up close and personal conversations with the host. Get to know us in a better light. You know, you have to use your words wisely when you're talking about marriage. Get to know us better, because we have some exciting things that are happening in the new year. We want to thank you again for rocking out. And please make sure that you hit the notification button so you don't miss next week at the same time. Meet us here. We cannot wait to see you all. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. Thank you, Tobias, for coming in. We appreciate you. Lisa, as always, good conversation. Anything else?
See y'all next time. Always have fun.
All righty. God bless y'all. Marriage rocks. Peace out.